Hi, this is Kennedy from Stats in 5. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to enter data from your questionnaires into SPSS. First off, open the SPSS application. You can close the welcome dialog and head straight to the data editor window. There are two tabs on the data editor window, the variable view and the data view tabs. The data view tab is where you enter the data gathered with your questionnaires. Each column represents a variable or question in your questionnaire. The rows are dedicated for each case or individual participant in your study. But before we get too excited about entering the data, we would first of all need to define our variables or questions on the variable view tab here. Here on this tab, SPSS allows you to define each variable in your questionnaire or in your research. Each row would represent a variable, while that variable would be defined according to the parameters in the following columns. I'll briefly explain the variable properties or parameters as we create the variables from the questionnaire shown on the right side of your screen. The first question in our questionnaire is gender. First of all, we need to give a name to our variable gender. You can name each variable as you wish, but there are a few rules that must be followed. So for gender, we can just call it gender. The next thing is to choose the nature or type of the variable. And the two most likely variable types you would probably need for your study would be numeric and string. The numeric type, as you might have guessed, is used when the data values are recognized to be numbers. It is also important to note that nominal and ordinal categorical variables can be represented with numbers. String, on the other hand, is used when you want to enter text values. So for instance, participants could be asked to mention their names or number plates, which could be alphanumeric. But the key thing here is that strings should always have at least one letter or alphabet. There are other formats or types of variables you could choose from here. The width only shows how many characters or digits are allowed for the value or values. You might need to adjust it upwards if it's a string variable, but in most cases, especially for numeric variables, we can leave it just as it is. The decimal indicates the number of decimal places. In this example, we can reduce it to 0. It is very important that you describe what the particular variable is about properly. So you can do that on the label column for easy identification of what the variable is, especially when you run your analysis or for future references sake. So on values, when you use numbers to represent categorical variables like gender, the values section allows you to code the categories. So in this example, we can code male as 1 and female as 0. In case a participant did not respond to a question, how would you like SPSS to present that in your results? That's basically what the missing is about. But in our case, we can just leave it as it is. Column is just how wide you want the columns of variables to appear in the data view tab. The align relates to how you want your data to be aligned within the columns in the data view. Example, left, right, or center justified. In SPSS, 3 levels of measurement are specified, including the nominal, ordinal, and scale levels of measurements, where the scale represents interval or ratio levels of measurement. When a variable has categories but with no ranking, we choose the nominal. For instance, in this example, gender has 2 categories, male and female. Now, you have no system of measurement to state that male is better than female. So gender would be on the nominal scale because there is no order. Ordinal is used when the variable is categorical but has some form of ranking, like the educational level of people and Likert scale kind of questions. Scale is chosen when the values of a variable are continuous and are ordered with a defined metric such that you can compare the values between the ordered categories. That is, you can tell how different one level is from the other. A detailed description of levels of measurement is in a different video you can check out here. The next item on our questionnaire is the educational level. We can name it edu level, choose numeric because the options can be represented as numbers. Go ahead and label it properly and define the values. Here you can tell that there are categories but with some intrinsic ranking. For instance, someone with high school diploma is highly educated than someone who only finished school at the primary level. So we will choose the ordinal measure. We can go ahead and define the other questions in the questionnaire. Age is a continuous variable. We will choose numeric and it's open-ended, so we can leave the values as none and then choose the scale measurement. In this survey, we use the Likert scale to determine the perception of consumers on our ABC fruit juice. We can go ahead and create the variables for the perception statements in this manner. It's important to label each statement properly. We can then define the levels of agreement from the values column. Go ahead and do the same for the rest of the perception statements. Now, we wanted our participants to rank the attributes they consider before choosing a brand of fruit juice. So we would need to create variables for each attribute. Now that we are done creating our variables, we can move to the data view tab to enter the data collected with our questionnaires. As I mentioned earlier, each column in the data view tab represents a single variable in the questionnaire. We can go ahead and key in some data. Once we are done entering the data, we can toggle the label button here. We can go ahead and save. Kindly subscribe, like, and also comment if you have further questions or suggestions.